Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom.
In a week, the Corning Robotics team
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover, a couple comments from viewers from yesterday's program. We have a lot, of course, on tariffs, a few things here on Doge. We'll be giving you an update on the battle in Albany and the budget. All of that and much more. Let's get right to it. Comment coming in yesterday afternoon. Democrats during Republican rule never saw stock market gains as a positive. Only in their rule, Biden. The stock market gains in the last 4 years due to wasteful government spending and money printing. Normal corrections avoided by federal money pumping in. Booby traps and landmines set to sabotage Trump. Trump making bold moves to save America from the Democrat destruction of America plan. Thank you very much. From that viewer, we are going to talk about tariffs here in just a little bit. First, kind of breaking overnight, the Trump administration will be allowed to resume deporting suspected Venezuelan gang members under the 1798 Alien Enemies Act after the Supreme Court on Monday lifted a lower court order that blocked the deportations. In a 5-4 decision, the High Court ruled that the Trump administration was, quote, likely to succeed on the merits in a lawsuit filed in Washington, D.C. District Court challenging the removal of 5 Venezuelan men under the centuries-old law. It's interesting to be on the side, in a way, of those fighting for the Venezuelan gang members not to be deported to Venezuela, but they have, there are quite a large number of people doing that. Quote, the detainees are confined in Texas, so venue is improper in the District of Columbia, read the conservative majority opinion. The court also determined that anyone the Trump administration is seeking to deport under the Alien Enemies Act must be afforded notice, quote, within a reasonable time and in such a manner as will allow them to actually seek a court hearing in the proper venue before removal occurs. For all the rhetoric of the dissents, today's order, and I'm not going to try to read all the legalese here, confirm that the detainees subject to removal orders under the AEA are entitled to notice and an opportunity to challenge their removal. The only question is which court will resolve that challenge. Now, we know this goes back to Judge James Boasberg, who's been very active in trying to stop the Trump administration. He's out of the D.C. District Court. And I'm not going to go through the whole history of the back and forth with lawsuits. This is something it seems the Trump administration was well prepared for, maybe during those 4 years when out of office, preparing for what has been labeled lawfare. On Truth Social, Trump said the Supreme Court has upheld the rule of law in our nation by allowing a president, whoever that may be, to be able to secure our borders and protect our families and our country itself. A great day for justice in America. Now, the 3 liberal justices on the Supreme Court pointed to the Trump administration's apparent efforts to defy Boasberg's initial order and to fly alleged migrant gang members out of the country before the March 15th D.C. court hearing that resulted in the temporary restraining order. Justice Sonia Sotomayor slammed the majority for writing an opinion, quote, without mention of the grave harms plaintiffs will face if they are erroneously removed to El Salvador or regard for the government's attempt to subvert the judicial process throughout this litigation. Because the court should not reward the government's efforts to erode the rule of law with discretionary, equitable relief, I respectfully dissent. Now, I'm not sure. It was Justice Amy Coney Barrett, an appointee of Trump, who joined portions of the dissent. Some people are concerned. I was reading an article a couple weeks ago about some of the direction that Amy Coney Barrett has taken. In response to the landmark ruling, Attorney General Pam Bondi said that she, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Border Czar Tom Homan will, quote, direct our assets to scour the country for any remnants of TDA, that gang, and deport them. Tonight's decision is a landmark victory for the rule of law. An activist judge in Washington, D.C. does not have the jurisdiction to seize control of President Trump's authority to keep the country safe. The Department of Justice will continue fighting in court to make America safe again. Kristi Noem warned that it is a bad day to be a terrorist and criminal alien in the United States of America, describing the ruling as a victory for common sense security. We will continue to enforce our immigration laws and restore sanity to our immigration system by using all appropriate authorities, including the Alien Enemies Act. Thank you, President Trump, for your leadership. So that is an update from overnight. A big decision in favor of Trump and his administration. Your thoughts on Amy Coney Barrett? You see kind of the beginnings of what would be almost a stereotypical conservative justice, at least in the past, who very often does not side with conservatives. That happens occasionally with picks by Republican presidents. Not always the case, but there does seem to be more often than not where a conservative will break ranks with conservatives. That does not typically be the case if you are a liberal justice on the court. That they seem pretty hard fast to stay in line with the liberal opinion. Also, and I know this will come as good news for many viewers who have been writing in talking about their support for RFK Jr. Well, U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said he plans to tell the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention soon to stop recommending fluoridation in communities nationwide. Kennedy also said he's assembling a task force to focus on the issue. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency announced also yesterday it is reviewing new scientific information on potential health risks of fluoride in drinking water. This has long been a discussion, and I would love to hear your opinion on it, but long been a discussion about the supposed benefits of putting fluoride in water in many areas. I remember when it was a big issue here in Corning some years ago, where many were fighting to keep fluoride out of the drinking water. Kennedy told the AP of his plans at a news conference. Utah last month became the first state to ban fluoride in public drinking water, pushing past opposition from dentists and national health organizations who warned the move would lead to medical problems and disproportionately affect low-income communities. Republican Governor Spencer Cox signed legislation barring cities and communities from deciding whether to add the cavity-preventing mineral to their water systems. Water systems across the state must shut down their fluoridation by May the 7th. Kennedy praised Utah for emerging as the leader in making America healthy again. He was flanked by Utah legislative leaders and the sponsor of the state's fluoride law. Now, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, and many people are starting to speculate what the future holds for Lee Zeldin being in this position at the EPA. It really doesn't benefit him with this gubernatorial race, but it could in the next gubernatorial race. He appeared with Kennedy at the news conference, said his agency was launching a renewed examination of scientific studies on the potential health risks of fluoride in drinking water to help inform any changes to the national standards. Quote, when this evaluation is completed, we will have an updated foundational scientific evaluation that will inform the agency's future steps. Secretary Kennedy has long been at the forefront of this issue. His advocacy was instrumental in our decision to review fluoride exposure risks, and we are committed to working alongside him, utilizing sound science as we advance our mission of protecting human health and the environment. So that is another update as well. We've got a few other things that we're going to talk about. I didn't even highlight some of the special segments on this morning's broadcast. Later on in the show, we're going to be hearing from Todd Dowlett. He has a new television program coming out called the Real Estate Commission, and this is on A&E. And why I'm having him on the program specifically is he is looking for people in our area that could be on the program, and it's involving real estate. But I think it's a real great opportunity for some people in our area, so I wanted to pass that along to you. That'll be coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. Here in just a little bit, we're going to hear from our friend Dante Brown from Big Fox News at 10. He did a package on the robotics team. If you remember, last week I interviewed Gorilla Bots Team 5485 as they are headed to the World Championship in Houston, Texas. That interview is up on YouTube and on our website, WYDCTV.com. So if you saw the interview and you still had questions about what the robotics look like, Dante joined them at their quote-unquote practice and their going-away party as they prepare for Houston. So you'll get to see exactly what their robot looks like. That'll be coming up here in just a little bit. That was to give you an update. We are going to talk not the whole morning, but a pretty good segment of the program this morning about some New York State issues. We know that the budget process is ongoing right now. They passed another budget extender, and Governor Hochul signaling that she'll fight in this budget even if it's in the summer. That she's not giving up on some key issues, and we can talk about that as well. Keep your waves, keep your comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
Hustling plus overbooked plus bustling plus cleaning overlooked. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done. Hustling plus too busy plus bustling plus in a tizzy. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done.
Harder makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Your teams, your highlights, your scores. Get more of what you want. To the end zone. Stream your teams live. It's free with your pay TV subscription.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Mark writes in, and Mark says, A lot of countries are willing to completely drop their tariffs and are working with Trump, but not China. Yes, we do have some updates on that, especially not China. They have signaled very clearly that they will not work and negotiate, but there are others that are jumping on board. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the program. Ken writes in, Frank, possibly you can help me understand something. When citizens lie to Congress, they could face 5 years in prison. Why can our politicians lie in Congress and not face any consequences? Great question, Ken. I don't have an answer for you on that because, look, there's prime examples, a lot of prime examples. Look at Adam Schiff. Look at Dr. Fauci. So many others where it is crystal clear what was said was not accurate, and it's as if we never, or Governor Cuomo, and we never hear anything more about it again. So that's a great question. One I don't have the answer for, but I wish I did, Ken. Hey, did you see, just quickly before we go to New York, but this is kind of a New York issue. AOC is a congresswoman from New York. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's been making quite a name for herself with this push of socialism and fighting the oligarchy and these big rallies with Bernie Sanders. And we had the op-ed from the New York Times saying, not only essentially saying, challenge Chuck Schumer and run for Senate or even maybe run for president. So you see a lot of people on the left kind of gravitating towards AOC. She was photographed, this was breaking yesterday, was photographed flying first class to a Bernie Sanders event last month, with critics saying it shows how she battles inequality one mimosa at a time. A passenger snapped AOC getting comfy in the roomy first-class cabin of JetBlue as they departed from JFK Airport in Queens for Las Vegas, where she spoke at a Sanders rally titled Fighting Oligarchy. The next day, she led another Fighting Oligarchy rally along with Senator Sanders. Nothing says power to the people like ignoring voters looking to say hello and reclining in first class while tweeting about income inequality, the flyer said, who took the photo. Claiming that AOC did not respond to friendly comments once she sat down. AOC is fighting the system, one first-class mimosa at a time. The congresswoman, whose 14th district includes parts of the Bronx and Queens, is seen in the snap, leaning over in her seat, appearing to grab or look at something. A man is sitting next to her. A first-class JetBlue seat on the same route, weekday and time later this month, costs upwards of $1,100. First-class seats on planes also been widely derided by climate change activists because they typically produce many times more the carbon emissions of economy seats since they take up more room, thus reducing the number of people able to fly on a flight at one time. Some New York politicians said this traveling by AOC is just the latest example of hypocrisy from the left. Representative Nicole Malatakis said socialists are hypocrites. I'm surprised she didn't take a private jet like most of her comrades do. Yeah, that's true. Maybe that'll be the next step in the Fighting Oligarchy tour. State Conservative Party Chairman Gerald Kaiser said it was showing just how much she's out of touch with her principles. It's absolutely rich in hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is the operative word. AOC, of course, declining to comment on the story. At the rallies, she did say we as a community must choose and vote for Democrats and elected officials who know how to stand for the working class. We're going to throw these bums out and fight for the nation we deserve. This isn't just about Republicans. We need a Democrat Party that fights harder for us, too. So that's an update on a story we've been bringing to you quite frequently, which is the Fighting Oligarchy tour. But yes, to Mark's point, just because I wanted to get to that before I forgot, that seemed like a story that may later we may have lost time and not had a chance to bring it up. But President Trump said yesterday that virtually every country wants to negotiate as the reciprocal tariffs are set to take effect on Wednesday. While talking with reporters alongside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump detailed the dynamic that has unfolded since last Wednesday, or as he calls it, Liberation Day. I will say this, virtually every country wants to negotiate. If I didn't do what I did over the last couple of weeks, you wouldn't have anybody who wants to negotiate. We would have gone to these countries, you want to talk, and they'd go, well, we don't want to talk. Now they're coming to us. Even Bibi, meaning Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and this is unrelated because it's a different kind of relationship, but he started off our conversation today that he's cutting all of the tariffs. He's cutting everything. He's going to get down to a free base. Trump said that the other nations around the world are offering things to us that we would have never even thought of asking them for because they're experiencing a lot of hurt. And the hurt is that they've taken advantage of us, and we finally fought back. We're going to give you some more updates on the tariffs, but yes, China is fighting the tariffs. We do have what some talking heads had to say, what some people in the Trump administration have to say about these tariffs. We may update you on a couple of Democrat updates that we've been having for you lately on the program, but I guess AOC kind of took care of that. When we come back, we are going to talk about New York State and the budget. As I mentioned, Todd Drollette will be our guest. He is the host of the Real Estate Commission, and they are looking for people in our area. You'll find out all about it on that interview a little bit later on, and we're going to learn more about the robotics team going to the World Champion, and we're going to read your comments. Count your waves, all that and much more. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will be right back.
Is it time for your next oil change? Are you too busy to do it yourself? Let the professionals at Quick Lube do it for you. With 2 locations better to serve you, Quick Lube makes it easy. Get your oil and filter changed and never leave the comfort of your vehicle. No appointment is needed. Just drive up and let Quick Lube do the rest. Keep your motor humming with Quick Lube on South Main Street in Elmira and Chemung Street in Horsehead.
Your Social Security disability claim has been denied, and you don't understand why. Your physical or emotional problems make it impossible for you to work. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Don't give up. Together, we'll file your appeal to give you the best chance to win the benefits you deserve.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton, toll free 1-800-698-0567.
What better start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News, WYDC, or visit our website at The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go through some viewer comments. What countries are jumping in board with tariff negotiations? I heard that only country that has actually been verified to be negotiating is Japan. Are there others that have been verified? I know Scott Besant said that they have had phone conversations with 70 countries, but they begin the negotiating process with Japan next week. That's kind of the first place they're starting. That's what he said, I believe, on Larry Kudlow's show. I don't have a list of those 70 countries that have contacted the Trump administration, so I don't have the specifics, but that is what Scott Besant is saying. We're going to talk more about the tariffs a little bit later on in the program. Coming from a different viewer, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I was a little annoyed last night when I saw the news and Chuck Schumer was sitting there saying, okay, President, stop playing golf and get back to what's happening in the world. All President Trump ever does this work every day. And they say he's up at the crack of dawn. He's still signing papers at midnight. What is up with the Democrats upset over playing a game of golf? I appreciate the president taking time to clear his head, to re-energize himself. That's what we need in a hard-working president. Don't worry, President Trump. Yes, thank you very much for that comment. Of course, it is frustrating to see Chuck Schumer say that when we know how much time, for instance, Joe Biden spent on a beach, and that wasn't even reported on. Golf is only a problem if you are a Republican president, historically, and I'm talking about the media here. Golf is only an issue for a president when that president is Republican. If you recall Barack Obama, it was said that about Barack Obama by the media, that he needed that to get away from the stress of the job. So it was looked at as a positive thing. That has not been the case with the Trump administrations. That wasn't the case in the past with Republican presidents. But Democrats, yes, the media has no problem with golf at that point. So yesterday, another state budget extender was passed by the New York State Legislature and signed by Governor Hochul to keep the government running through Wednesday and ensure state employees are paid on time. We'll have to ask Joe or Phil why they do these extenders in such short bursts. I wonder what the reason behind that is. New York lawmakers return to the state capitol in Albany on Monday as state budget negotiations continue. Now nearly a week past the deadline. Yes, the deadline, April 1st. It is now the 8th. Criminal justice issues are among the latest sticking points, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, between Governor Hochul and legislative leaders. That includes proposed changes to the state's 2020 discovery laws and a ban on wearing of face masks in public with an intent to harass, the latter of which has become entangled with concerns over the Trump administration's immigration policies and the response to pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses, as well as broader issues related to the war in Gaza. This coming from New York State of Politics. Right there you see the inherent bias when it is pro-Palestine protests, but also this idea that the mask ban shouldn't go into effect because of the Trump administration. It seems like a stretch, but remember, in Albany, it is one-party rule, and the ones that rule in that one party are very far to the left. They don't want to see changes to law enforcement issues, criminal justice issues. Other policy items Hochul is pushing includes changes to involuntary commitment, which is also a battle with the far left in Albany. I don't know how strong. I mean, she's talking very tough right now. I don't know how strong Governor Hochul will stay on this. She likes to talk tough and then known to cave or not have kind of the backbone to keep up the fight. Will that be the case here after she said she'll stay in Albany until in the summer? It's beautiful there in the summer, too, meaning that the budget could go that long. Lawmakers are working with the beginning of Passover looming this weekend. She suggested yesterday that could go away as well, that maybe they'll have to, if they do a small extender, maybe they won't get their quote-unquote spring break in Albany, that they'll be forced to continue working. I don't think she stands that strong, but time will tell if I'm wrong on that. Now, when we talk about some of the things she's pushing, which there are quite a few different things that are quite interesting. Let's go through some of them. The discovery law. We've talked about it, but Hannah Myers says that state legislators have the opportunity this week to make the Empire State more stable, a place of greater civic trust, by finalizing Albany's delayed budget deal with all of Governor Hochul's proposed amendments to the 2019 discovery law intact. This would edge New York back from being a radical outlier among the 50 states when it comes to prosecutorial policy. And critically, it would help restore basic rule of law, the very foundation of a thriving society. When New York's discovery law was enacted in 2019, advocates argue that stronger guidelines would ensure that defendants know the weight of the evidence against them. But New York lawmakers did something insane. They created a statute that hobbles the functioning of the criminal justice system and called it progress, much like they did with bail reform. Unlike any other state in the union, New York now requires a long laundry list of specific types of records prosecutors must gather, plus anything else remotely related to the case. What about material that is related but purely irrelevant, like surveillance footage shot with the lens cap on? Prosecutors now must collect that as well. Do other states require this amount of grunt work in order to prosecute cases? No. None even come close. In fact, many states, including California, Maine, and Oregon, only require prosecutors to collect a handful of specific evidence categories in order to move a case forward. That's it. Still, other states like Washington, Pennsylvania, and Illinois only require prosecutors to additionally assemble more if defense attorneys show there are missing records that are pertinent to the case. Again, New York is the only state where, when prosecutors fail to collect evidence that all sides agree is totally useless, the case cannot proceed. But that's not even the most extreme part about New York's law. Unlike all other states, New York penalizes prosecutors who haven't done the impossible. That is, collected every scrap of irrelevant material by tossing out legitimate cases. This is true even if it's clear the prosecutor's omissions were accidental or trivial. And the timeline for all this prosecutorial scavenging is tied to New York's speedy trial clock, which starts running the moment a case is arraigned. Compare that to other states most frequently cited for their progressive discovery regimes. In Texas, prosecutors simply have to turn over discovery records to the defendants as fast as is practical. They're only dinged if they intentionally suppress evidence and do so in genuine bad faith. Meanwhile, California courts are actually prohibited from dismissing cases merely for discovery violations. Golden State prosecutors do not need to disclose their discovery records until 30 days before trial, time to the resolution of a case rather than its initiation. Across the Hudson in New Jersey, prosecutors are permitted to file incomplete discovery material if these records are simply too large. Prosecutors are also permitted to bar defendants from examining some of this evidence if they offer a good explanation. By making the compliance burden impossible to consistently meet, New York has created a presumption of no justice, breeding distrust and empowering the extremes. Indeed, many more guilty criminals now go free based on the purely arbitrary coin toss of whether the prosecutor on their case squeaked past the procedural hurdles or not. That's why last year, are you ready for this? New York achieved around 65,000 fewer convictions than in 2019, and nearly 40,000 more cases were thrown out entirely because prosecutors couldn't meet these new compliance guidelines. If you're a guilty criminal, the Empire State is the best place in America to be prosecuted. And that will be true even if all of Hochul's amendments are passed this week. The governor's tweaks are substantive and worthwhile, but modest. In particular, she seeks to limit what additional records prosecutors are immediately responsible to collect to only what is relevant. Further, in order for cases to be tossed, defense attorneys will need to show that the missing records could actually impact the outcome of the case. Otherwise, prosecutors would be granted more time to collect them. Again, New York would still have America's most anti-prosecution discovery regime, but it would make the system more reliable, fairer, and slightly less extreme. Albany should enact all of Hochul's discovery amendments without another moment of delay. Now, that's Hannah Myers. She is a fellow and the director of Policing and Public Safety at the Manhattan Institute. But as you see, the left in Albany ends up going even further with, as we've talked about a million times on this program, coddling criminals and tying the hands of law enforcement, really putting the handcuffs on law enforcement. In this case, in the discovery process, we've talked about bail reform ad nauseum. It's why we have such a public safety issue in the state of New York. And now we brought this up yesterday on the program. This is just amazing to me. The pro-crime progressives in Albany never rest in seeking new ways to make us less safe. And that's true. You know, when we have Sheriff Allard on the program, we talk so often about how nervous they must be at the sheriff's office around budget season, because you never know what new law, what new bill will be put forward that, again, ties their hands, law enforcement hands, while coddling and protecting criminals. Bail reform is probably one of the finest examples of that. And the victims that didn't have to be victims, the criminals who are back out on the street before the ink is even dry on their paperwork. But I'll continue. The latest madness, and I brought it to you yesterday, a bill to ban police from stopping and searching drivers over things like broken taillights or expired license tags. This is all being done in the name of racial equity. The most famous example of a major criminal caught over such an infraction may be serial killer Joel Rifkin, pulled over for a missing license plate while he was moving a body to dump. Not that we expect a wave of such murders if this bill becomes law. Driving without plates or with broken lights are not in themselves horrible crimes, but enforcing minor violations, just like not tolerating transit fare beating, prevents a lot of worse crimes. And I just wonder, too, at what point do you not get your car re-registered because of the cost, or not get it inspected, or not renewing your license plates? Because if they can't pull you over for it, what's the ultimate purpose? But as the Post editorial board says, let the small stuff slide, that is, and you get more big stuff, more speeding, more drunk driving, more recklessness of all kinds. And hamstringing cops from being after such scoff laws. The law normalizes tossing litter out of your car window, for heaven's sakes. It itself erodes public safety by eroding the confidence of law-abiding people and making them feel like saps for following the little laws at all. But State Senator Brad Holman Siegel, running for Manhattan Bureau President, doesn't care. Pushing this bill helps him posture as the defender of blacks and Latinos. That minority drivers get stopped more frequently for the small stuff than white ones is supposed proof that the system is racist, according to the New York Post. How often do cops even get a good look at the driver before they pull them over? Where it doesn't stop officers from enforcing minor infractions, the bill would discourage them with huge amounts of paperwork, including collecting the racial data that Empire State progressives now obsess over. Holman's a dangerous cynic, but that's no guarantee Albany won't embrace this idiocy. It fit right in with all the other criminal justice reforms of the last few years. If the public doesn't squawk, it never occurs to the big brains at Let the Killers Out Incorporated that nobody wants to live in a state or city where the roads are like Mad Max. So that's just an update from a story we brought to you yesterday. We are running a little bit late. Stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Invite you to discover what makes our school community so special, including the fact that everything, top-notch education, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, technology, and much more is provided to our students at no cost to our families. This is thanks to the generosity of our founders, chocolate maker Milton S. Hershey and his wife Catherine.
Anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
The BIC's website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A couple comments from viewers. Ken writes in, did you see that some of the crazy left activists have threatened Trump and Musk with assassination? They have posted these threats on social media, and some have been on camera showing their faces. I hope Pam and Cash go after them with the full force of the federal government like the Democrats would if these threats came from the right. It's scary. I mean, you're talking about a time when obviously the president had at least two assassination attempts on his life. The rhetoric coming from Washington and some of those quote unquote in charge, trying to fan the flames of this hatred and this division, and not, you don't even need to read between the lines, but essentially encouraging violence and encouraging, like, for instance, the destruction of Tesla dealerships and going after Trump and Musk. So that's a very good point, Ken. Thanks for writing in. Comment from a different viewer. How about for both federal and state, those involved with budget are not to be paid when the budget goes beyond the date it should be completed? If we do not complete tasks at work, there are consequences. That is a very good point. There does not seem to be consequences in Washington or Albany in most instances, though. But I think it's a great point. Also, since and we don't have a ton more here on New York State, but there are a couple that I do want to bring to your attention. We learned yesterday that New York State's education department essentially said no to the Trump administration when it came to the demand of scrapping diversity, equity, and inclusion mandates. Because the Trump administration saying if you want federal money, you have to scrap DEI. New York State, in typical fashion, kind of snubbed them. So no, we're not going to. Proving once again that students' interests are least among the concerns of Commissioner Betty Rosa and company. There are no federal or state laws prohibiting the principles of DEI, wrote Daniel Morton Bentley, an attorney for SED, in a defiant 3-page response to the federal government. President Donald Trump last month signed an executive order requiring state education officials to affirm that all unconstitutional DEI programs are eliminated or have their federal Title I funding halted for noncompliance. But SED is digging in its heels, insisting DEI initiatives, quote, simply aim to level the playing field and redress the ongoing harms of segregation and centuries of legal inequality, exclusion, and discrimination. Notice how they fall back on the supposed goal rather than confronting how DEI actually works. DEI views everything, including students, purely through the lens of race, stoking racial tensions and wasting everyone's time and energy on this woke theater. Of course, this nonsense gets defended by the same SED that's watering down academic standards in the name of fairness. Yes, there's even talks now of getting rid of, lowering the standards where Regents diplomas are no longer a standard, no longer a thing. This comes as more families flee the regular public schools, where learning loss and chronic absenteeism have skyrocketed, for charters, private academies, and even homeschooling, if they just don't leave New York altogether. The Trump administration is merely asking schools to affirm that they're not foisting an identity-based curriculum on students and are fostering respect for diversity of opinion. The state education commissioner, Betty Rosa, and her minions would rather fight than explicitly attest to that. And that is all you need to know about her and the state of New York and the education system. So picking a fight that did not need to be picked, that is going to ultimately harm New York State schools, should come as no surprise. And as an update from yesterday's program, the Supreme Court yesterday turned away a challenge to recently enacted gun restrictions in New York, sidestepping a new case on the right to bear arms. The law, which the court previously refused to put on hold, was enacted immediately after the justices expanded the right to carry a firearm outside the home in June of 2022. The decision leaves in place an October ruling by the New York-based Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals that upheld key provisions while striking down others. A ban on concealed firearms in sensitive locations such as healthcare facilities, churches, parks, entertainment venues, and other places where people gather remains in effect. So does a provision that requires gun owners to show good moral character to obtain concealed carry licenses. A prohibition on concealed firearms on private property that is generally open to the public remains blocked, as does a provision that requires people applying for concealed carry licenses to provide information about their social media accounts. The Supreme Court's 2022 ruling has led to a wave of both new restrictions being imposed in some states and courts ruling that have struck down some long-standing gun laws. Both of these developments have led to a flurry of appeals at the court, asking the justices to clarify the scope of the 2022 ruling. So that is just an update. New York legislators passed their law banning firearms in many public places and stiffening the permitting requirements as a month after the Supreme Court struck down a century-old provision in New York that required gun owners who want to carry handguns outside their homes to prove that they have unique needs for self-defense. The new law, called the Concealed Carry Improvement Act, also requires applicants to provide character references, contact information of family members and people they live with, and information about their social media accounts. The Supreme Court in July sidestepped multiple gun-related disputes soon after it issued a ruling that upheld a federal law that prohibits people subject to domestic violence restraining orders from possessing firearms. In a case that did not directly address the right to bear arms, the court last month upheld a Biden administration bid to regulate ghost gun kits that could be easily assembled to make firearms. So that was just a quick update before we ran late, because I don't want to talk just about New York State issues all morning. We have a lot more to cover. We are going to hear more about the robotics team here in just a little bit. But first, we've got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will be right back.
Are you or someone you love at risk of falling in the home? Did you know 80% of home falls happen in the bathroom? If you are still stepping over a tub to take a shower, please call Bath Planet for a free design service. Our certified design team will take all the measurements and work with you to design a bathroom that never has to sacrifice style for safety. Go with the company that people trust. Bath Planet, 2 locations serving the entirety of the Twin Tiers. Call today.
Matar has a reputation for being a good guy.
Because I am a good guy.
For being focused on motor vehicle accident cases.
Because I focus on motor vehicle accidents.
For fighting for his clients.
Because I fight for my clients.
If you've been injured in a motor vehicle accident, it matters who you hire. It matters in the experience as well as the results. Call William Matar. Visit WilliamMatar.com.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. A comment from a viewer. Shouldn't those attacking Elon be considered a hate crime? They are now stating that they want him dead. The attacks on Tesla dealerships do not hurt Elon. They only hurt those employed at them. Thank you very much. We are going to get to the national level here in just a moment. A couple last quick things about New York State. According to a new poll out of likely Democratic primary voters in New York State, incumbent Governor Hochul has a large lead in the gubernatorial race. The survey finds Kathy Hochul, the incumbent governor, leading a potential 2026 Democratic primary field for governor by a wide margin. Hochul receives a majority of the vote, 51%, while Representative Richie Torres and Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado each receive 11%, and around 1 in 4 voters say they are undecided. Could be name recognition. Representative Richie Torres, though, was originally a big defund the police person, now trying to present himself as Mr. Public Safety. He's a congressperson, if you're not aware. He is actively primarying her as we speak with some of his rallies, some of his press conferences, some of his op-eds. But if it were to hold up right now, It also found, this poll also found with the likely Democrat primary voters, which is just worth a little bit of a side conversation here. It found that AOC would lead Chuck Schumer by 19 points in a hypothetical matchup. Now, that primary would not occur until the year 2028. So a lot can change, but the Data for Progress was a company that put this poll together, by Kathy Hochul leading the field of other Democrats with 51%. But AOC beating out Chuck Schumer by 19 points. All right. Oh, by the way, Governor Hochul, in her kind of typical wanting to be funny and kind of falling flat, there was a corrections officer, they were outside protesting at the Buffalo Bills new stadium because Governor Hochul was holding a press conference or something there. So a wildcat strike by corrections officers focused on safety and understaffing concerns at New York State prisons. As was the case during the wildcat strike, people brought no shortage of signs to make their points. Well, one sign in particular captured the governor's attention over the weekend. She said, "I've got thick skin, but let's get one thing straight. I have never used ranch instead of blue cheese with my wings." I think her response falls flat. I think that is a very, very clever protest sign by the corrections officer saying that Governor Hochul likes ranch instead of blue cheese dressing. Just mentioning that for no other reason than I thought it was humorous, that corrections officer sign. All right, going to the national level. Now, when we come back, we are going to hear from Dante Brown. Dante Brown is on Big Fox News at 10. I wanted to have a little more information for you because it is about the robotics team going to the World Championship in Houston, Texas. We talked with them last week, but I want you to actually have the opportunity to see what it is they built and hear from them again, because so many people commenting how proud they were and making Corning and Horseheads and Elmira proud with this trip to the World Championship. But this has been kind of in the news lately. How am I doing on time? I'm doing okay. This has been in the news lately, so I wanted to give you an update. President Trump's Office of Communication sent this out last night around 9:30. It's an update on what is being done with that Jackson magnolia tree. We know that it is being taken down from the White House because of safety issues. Well, the White House announced that one of the several southern magnolia trees near the south portico of the White House, commonly known as the Andrew Jackson Commemorative Southern Magnolia, has been removed from the White House grounds April 7, 2025, so yesterday, due to serious safety concerns cited in an official report. A new sapling, which is a direct descendant of the Jackson Magnolia, will be planted in its place today. So that's, I think, a kind of a neat way of doing it, making sure that, yes, for safety issues, they have to take this down, but using a sapling, which is a direct descendant of the Jackson Magnolia, to start the process again. After expert analysis and careful coordination between a board-certified master arborist, National Park Service, the White House Grounds Superintendent, the White House Executive Residence and its Office of the Curator, the Office of the President and the First Lady, and the United States Secret Service, the White House has made the careful decision to remove the Jackson Magnolia to ensure the safety of staff, visitors, and the grounds themselves. Remnants of the old tree will be preserved by the Office of the Curator and honored by the White House. And this new tree will continue the heritage of the Jackson Magnolia for generations to come. The collaborative decision regarding the Jackson Magnolia follows a comprehensive assessment by the American Society of Consulting Arborists, which concluded the tree has surpassed the time of serving and the historic landmark due to the potential harm it may cause because of the risk of structural failure. They recommended to eliminate the risk of personal injury and or property damage. This tree should be removed as soon as it can be scheduled. So replacing it, the new sapling is 12 years old and was grown at the off-site National Park Service greenhouse in preparation for the removal of its parent, the Jackson Magnolia. So this has been in the works for quite some time. Anyway, weird update. Different update. We're going through we got everything covered here on Frankly Speaking. You're not going to miss a thing when you tune into Frankly Speaking. All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, we are going to hear from Dante Brown. We also have more updates on the Trump administration. We are going to talk about the tariffs as well. And as I said, in the next hour, Todd Drawlett. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
In today's securing your business is more important than ever. Protected with Boss Security's state-of-the-art alarm systems. When seconds matter, trust the experts. Boss Security is proud to safeguard local businesses across the Twin Tiers. Contact Boss Security today.
One of the things I like most about being a mortgage loan officer is helping people make dreams come true.
The most satisfying part is seeing people succeed in accomplishing the purchase of a home.
Whether it's refinancing for a lower monthly payment, a lower interest rate, or to tap in your home's equity.
Whether you're buying your first home or looking to refinance, First Heritage will be here to help.
My name is Cindy.
My name is Tracy.
My name is Peter.
My name is Deb.
We are here to guide you.
In a few words, Urkel, glasses, nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer: they should make a bench out of the wood from the Jackson Magnolia. That'd be interesting. I don't know how they're going to preserve it. They said they're going to put it with the Office of Curator. I'm not sure if it's made into something or if it just remains a block of wood. But I think it was kind of a neat way of doing that, using a direct descendant, if you will, of that Jackson Magnolia to essentially replant the Jackson Magnolia. We've got some other updates on the Trump administration when we come back. But first, we want to hear from Dante Brown to give you some more information about the robotics team, Gorilla Bots, Team 5485, as they head to the World Championship in Houston, Texas. We had some of the members of the team. I think it's 14 people are on the team. We had 6 or 7. Really fun interview. If you missed it, it is already up on YouTube. It's already on WYDCTV.com as well. But right now, we'll find out a little bit more about Team Robotics.
In a week, the Corning Robotics team will be headed to Houston, Texas to compete in FRC Worlds, with hours of work put in to get to the big competition.
The game was released in September, and since then, we've been working about 10 hours a week, every single week, for 6 months now. To build this robot to perform those tasks. In a real competition would be to score points. You score points by scoring the blocks either in the basket or on the bars. And it's a 2v2 competition. So we would partner up with another robot here and going against 2 other robots.
For many on the team, this year will be their first chance to go to Worlds after spending years in local robotics competitions.
Actually, I'm currently 17 right now. I've been at this since I was like 5. So it's kind of just natural progression. I've been working on this for 12 years.
I actually started with the younger version, FLL. From there, my sister actually joined one of the teams, the FTC teams, and I thought it looked really cool, it looked really interesting.
With over 200 countries set to participate in Houston's competition this year, the team is ready to see what the rest of the world has to offer.
Everyone, I'm planning to meet every single one of the 255 other teams. So it's going to be a long 5-day event. And I'm going to be super exhausted afterwards, but I'm really going to make the most of it.
Talk to the other teams, see their design process, see how they solved the solutions we solved. Some of them might be better, some of them might be worse, but it's anything to learn more.
While the team is headed to Houston for Worlds, here in the community is where they try to make their biggest impact.
Yeah,
We have spent 850 hours collectively as a team on community outreach, and it is so important on a couple of levels. One is being able to share kind of what STEM is all about in the community. I think it helps to instill in the students that it's more than just us. We're part of this bigger community, this world, and an opportunity to give back is really meaningful.
Support the team on their trip to Worlds. You can donate to their GoFundMe under GorillaBots Team 5485. Dante Brown, Big Fox News, Corning.
And we thank Dante for that piece on GorillaBots Team 5485. They got their name in to pay tribute, I guess you'd say, to Gorilla Glass from Corning Incorporated, one of their major sponsors. All right, hour number 1 is in the books. A lot to cover in hour number 2, so please stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hurry in for fantastic spring savings at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. Search no more. Crown Royal Blackberry is here and on sale. Normally $34.99. It's on sale for $29.99 a bottle with no bottle limit. Dark Horse Wines, normally $8.99, is on sale for $6.99 a bottle. Save more with the mail-in rebate. $12 off 6 bottles or $24 off a case. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Open house April 12th at AJ's Outdoor Power Equipment, Mansfield and Coudersport, PA. It's the Kubota Orange Day sales event. Largest rebates of the year. Discount on all steel products. Save 10% on all in-stock parts, cash only. Buy one chainsaw chain, get one half off. In-stock items only. Door prices all day with grand prize drawing. Spring open house at AJ's Outdoor Power Equipment, both locations. Saturday, April 12th, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. AJ'sOutdoorPower.com.
Sounds awesome.
Anyone, anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us for hour number 2. Coming up in a little bit, we'll be talking with Todd Drawlett about that opportunity to perhaps participate in a reality show if that interests you. Thank you again to Dante for being on the segment, our last segment, to learn more about Corning, Elmira, and Horseheads students and their trip to the World Championship for Robotics. Okay, the Trump administration is planning a grand parade. Oh, by the way, there's so many news stories about the Trump administration. We didn't even talk yet that Trump said the U.S. will be holding direct talks with Iran about its nuclear program Saturday. This is the first time that has been done since 2015. That was a big story early on yesterday, and then kind of fell away. Everything's about tariffs, which we're going to talk about as well, but that's why we're giving you some updates you may have missed. The Trump administration is planning a grand parade on the Army's 250th anniversary, which also happens to coincide with the president's 79th birthday. President Trump may finally be getting a huge parade, and on his birthday, no less. Washington, D.C. officials have been in talks with the Trump administration about holding a grand parade on June 14th, which is the Army's 250th anniversary, as well as the president's 79th birthday. Mayor Muriel Bowser said on Monday, planning for the parade is still in its early stage, but the procession is expected to start in Arlington, Virginia, and the Pentagon and span the 4-mile stretch to the White House, according to details from Bowser and the Washington City paper. Quote, I understand that I think it was Homeland Security. Maybe the White House reached out to our special events task force, which is what most people want to do a parade do in the district. Bowser said. So I would say it's at its early stages. Yes, they have reached out. D.C. has a team called the Mayor's Special Events Task Group, which coordinates the planning of major activities within the city. Bowser didn't specify the exact reason for the parade, saying she hasn't been directly involved in it yet and was unsure whether it was even technically a military parade. The White House told the New York Post that as of yet, no military parade has been scheduled. Trump has long set his sights on a blockbuster military parade in D.C. During planning for Inauguration Day during his first term in 2017, he wanted tanks and other military vehicles to parade the streets of the nation's capital. Ultimately, that was shot down by city officials due to fears about the damage to infrastructure. Tanks and other military hardware were put on display around the nation's capital as a compromise during the first inauguration. But Trump's desire for this parade was never sated. Later, Trump's lofty aspirations for a mega extravaganza to showcase U.S. military might resurrected after the president was awestruck during a French military parade in 2017. Now, Mayor Bowser said military tanks on our streets would not be good. If military tanks were used, they should be accompanied with many millions of dollars to repair the roads. Reports about the parade first came from the Washington City paper, which first reported Sunday about the planning for the parade. The U.S. Army was founded on June 14th, 1775, a year before the Declaration of Independence. The Army has been developing plans to celebrate its 250th anniversary for over a year. All right, just a quick update. Oh, and something else, and these are sometimes the stories you don't hear from the mainstream media because everything has been on talks of the tariffs, which we too are going to be talking about the tariffs. But Vice President J.D. Vance revealed he held a private ceremony with his mother at the White House last week to mark the 10-year anniversary of her sobriety, and that the president gave her a special gift. Now, many people have followed the story of J.D. Vance's mother. It was so touching to see her at the inauguration, and when he talks about her and talks about what he's become as vice president. But Vance's mom, Beverly Akins, passed her inspiring decade mark in January, and the vice president said he was finally able to celebrate the milestone Friday at a teary event with family and friends at the White House. He tweeted out, he X'd out, "This year marks my mom's 10th year of sobriety, and I'm grateful that we were able to celebrate in the White House with our family. Mom, I'm so proud of you," Vance said. President Trump was in Florida for that golf tour at the time of the celebration, but he had a gift prepared for Akins. "This is one of the president's challenge coins," Vance said to his mom during the event. "He asked me to give this to you, and I will say that I love you, and I'm so glad that we're here." Now we know about, again, Vance's mom and her story and how Vance was raised by his grandparents. An emotional Akins recalled how she hit rock bottom and got to a point where her siblings and children weren't speaking to her. She also said, "Well, here we are." This is Vance saying, "And you made it, and we made it. And most importantly, you're celebrating a very, very big milestone. I'm just very proud of you. I'm going to try not to cry here." That's when his mom did get emotional. During the tribute to his mother, Vance also recounted how she met House Speaker Mike Johnson for the first time during the Republican National Convention last summer. Mom, who was sitting next to President Trump and sitting next to another guy, sort of shorter guy, good-looking, very well-spoken, very kind. Mom turns to him and says, "Who are you? You work in politics too?" And he says, "I'm Mike Johnson. I'm Speaker of the House." So I thought that was a nice story, maybe one that the mainstream media would not focus on. They did talk a little bit yesterday. How am I doing? Good. About Trump hosting the World Series champion Dodgers at the White House yesterday. Months removed from the World Series victory over the New York Yankees in October, in just 5 games, the star-studded Dodgers team joined Trump at the White House to commemorate their victory. Trump saying, "Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team gave us some of the most incredible performances ever seen on the baseball diamond." He said on September 19, 2024, he did the unthinkable by going 6 for 6 against the Marlins with 3 homers, 10 RBIs, and a pair of stolen bases. Other than that, it was not a great game. Now, pitcher Clayton Kershaw was the spokesperson for the team, saying, "This is an incredible honor for me to stand here today representing the Los Angeles Dodgers and this group of staff and players behind me today. The selflessness and humility that each of one of these players and staff have shown over the last year is truly an inspiration. They have constantly played hurt, switched positions, and taken the ball to put the team first." After the event, Trump and the Dodgers went to the Oval Office. So there's a couple of things before we get into tariffs, because tariffs, obviously the big story of the day. We talked a little bit about it in the last hour. Your thoughts on the coverage of the tariffs. Thank you to all the people who have been reaching out, talking about it. I know it can be a wonk issue, and I also know it's not everybody's favorite topic. But as I said earlier in the broadcast, Trump said virtually every country wants to negotiate as the reciprocal tariffs loom. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told Fox Business Kudlow on Monday that nearly 70 countries have reached out to the administration. I can tell you there are 50, 60, maybe almost 70 countries now who have approached us. So it's going to be a busy April, May, maybe into June. Japan is one nation that has reached out, and Bessent said he expects they will receive priority just because they came forward very quickly, which also echoes, if you recall, what Eric Trump said when this all began, saying, "I wouldn't want to be the last country that tries to negotiate a trade deal with Donald Trump. The first to negotiate will win. The last will absolutely lose. I have seen this movie my entire life." So we're going to tell you what some others had to say about this. We do have a couple op-ed pieces on it as well. So we're going to talk in the next segment about tariffs. We do have some updates on Democrats in general. We can cover that as well. We would love to hear from you. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. And as I said, coming up right around 7:20, we'll hear from Todd Drolet of the program, the Real Estate Commission. They put out a kind of a search for people in our area to participate in this reality show. And he also has a summer camp for young people that I think you're going to find very interesting as well. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We will be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Don't have to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Invite you to discover what makes our school community so special, including the fact that everything, top-notch education, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, technology, and much more is provided to our students at no cost to our families. This is thanks to the generosity of our founders, chocolate maker Milton S. Hershey and his wife Catherine.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam with that beautiful view, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. So the top White House trade advisor, Peter Navarro, who I'm sure is getting a lot of questions as of late, yesterday he guaranteed that the United States will not plunge into a recession under President Trump, and claimed there would be no inflation despite ongoing fallout from his Liberation Day tariffs. Navarro's promise comes amid concerns from Wall Street that the U.S. economy may already be contracting in the aftermath of Trump's sweeping announcement of new tariffs last week. It's finding a bottom now, Navarro said, of the stock market. This was with Laura Ingraham last night. But now here's the thing. It's going to shift over. And it's going to be companies in the S&P 500 who are the first to produce here. Those are the ones going to lead to recovery, and it's going to happen. Then he made his bold prediction saying, Dow, 50,000. I guarantee that, and I guarantee no recession. This, again, Peter Navarro. Dow, 50,000. I guarantee that, and I guarantee no recession. His confidence comes from his belief that Congress will soon enact the president's economic agenda, including eliminating taxes on tipped wages and overtime pay and extending tax cuts authorized during Trump's first term. Why? Because when we pass the biggest, broadest tax cut in history within a matter of months, that's going to be a great stimulus. There's not going to be any inflation. We've already had a significant drop, a huge drop in oil prices. That's like a point of the inflation off the inflation index. We're going to have lower yields and mortgage rates. Now, in contrast, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink told the Economic Club of New York on Monday that most business leaders already feel the nation is in economic downturn. He said most CEOs I talked to would say we are probably in a recession right now. And we don't need to go through all the exact numbers, but Navarro said, the leaders are saying we want to talk. We'll lower our tariffs to zero if you'll lower yours. That's not the problem. The trade advisors cited the example of Vietnam, which was hit with a 46% levy and sells $15 for every $1 we sell them. Zero tariffs would get us no reduction in the $123 billion deficit we have. Adding the $5 of that $15 they sell us, it's China. They don't buy anything of ours, and they want to go to 0-0. Scott Bessent, as I mentioned earlier, said up to 70 nations want to negotiate over the Trump tariffs. That was on Kudlow's show. Bessent told Larry Kudlow that Trump is better than anyone at giving himself maximum leverage. So what he has done is we outlined the tariffs on April 2nd and then gave countries several days to think about it. As I advised on many shows on April 2nd, I suggested that the foreign officials keep your cool, that you do not escalate and come to us with your offers on how you're going to drop tariffs, how you're going to drop non-tariff barriers, but you're going to stop your currency manipulation, how you're going to stop the subsidized financing, and at a point, President Trump will be ready to negotiate. And as we had mentioned, that's what Eric Trump said at the time as well, is to make sure that you talk to Trump quickly. Get this under control. But Bessent saying it's going to be a busy April, May, and maybe into June. Bessent said, I'll reiterate what I saw last week for countries that don't retaliate. We are at a maximum tariff level. It is my hope that through good negotiations, all we will do is see levels come down. But that's going to depend on the other countries. And, you know, President Trump is going to be personally involved in these negotiations. And he believes, as many of us do, that there's been an unfair playing field. So the negotiations are going to be tough. Now, the New York Post editorial board said, Mr. President, take yes for an answer. On Monday, as the fallout from Liberation Day continued to rile markets, the European Union surrendered. Quote, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods. said European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. That would lower the price of pharmaceuticals, cars, and other products that American companies export to the EU. It's exactly the sort of agreement that would make President Trump's tariff wars a success, forcing nations to make better deals for our workers. And if the agreement isn't perfect, at least it's a starting point. But is the administration even answering the phone, they ask? Trump officials are baffling the markets with contradictory messages. Peter Navarro, senior counsel for trade, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick suggested that these overtures are for naught. The tariffs are permanent. Lutnick said over the weekend this is not a negotiation. More reassuringly, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent indicates otherwise. He boasted that more than 70 countries have approached Washington about making a deal, suggesting that yes, negotiation is the point. Bessent added that next week he will specifically work with Japan, as I mentioned. And we know that Elon Musk came in and is not a fan of the tariffs. That has caused a rift that the media has been focused on, hoping that that's the end of the Trump-Musk relationship. The president, it says here, asked if other countries could avoid the tariffs by agreeing to new trade deals. He said that depends. The tariffs gave us great power to negotiate. They always have. But later he went online to insist that the tariffs were here to stay. My policies will never change, he said. That's because Trump sees tariffs as a money-making opportunity as much as a tool to repair trade imbalances. The cash could be used to pay down the national debt, he promises, even improbably replace income taxes. But sir, the global economy can't be changed in a day, writes the New York Post. The offshoring of American manufacturing happened over decades, and even if tariffs have their desired effect, it will take years for domestic production to return. And that's a big if. It's just as likely that blowback from other nations, including China's tit-for-tat response, hurts American companies abroad, even as imports to the U.S. fall, which won't much help the federal budget. In the meantime, the stock market will pummel retirees and the cost of consumer goods will continue to rise, adding to the painful inflation of the Biden years. We're on team, let's make a deal. Mr. President, you have the world in a panic. Get Ursula on the horn, take the 0 for 0 as an opening salvo, and ask for more. Put your economic team on doing the same for each of the 50 nations begging for relief. Or better, rather than take a blunderbuss to the world's economy, pick your targets carefully. China and Vietnam may be fair game, but why hurt allies as much as economic foes or rivals? Well, why not negotiate a free trade zone with the EU, as Musk suggested over the weekend? Why instead drive our allies away from U.S. markets and into the arms of those very same competitors who pose America the greatest threat? The most immediate benefit will be that Wall Street craves clarity. Show that there's an upside that doesn't require 2 generations and a tractor trailer of wishful thinking. Second, most importantly, you've given American workers a win. And finally, you've got a title for your post-term memoir, Art of the Deal 2. So your thoughts on the New York Post's take on that? I know, tariffs are getting a little bit cumbersome with how much talk there is, but it is, of course, an important conversation to have. We'll have a few more little things to discuss on that. We've also got quite a few things here just about the Trump administration in general. But coming up next, we're going to be talking with Todd Drolet. He's the host of the Real Estate Commission. And this is an opportunity for many people in our area to maybe perhaps contact him and be a part of that show. Let's take that short break. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Anyone, anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Sharing the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox. It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox. Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. I'm very excited to meet our next guest. Todd, thanks so much for being on the show. This is a really amazing opportunity for our area.
Thanks so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the upcoming program on A&E that you are currently developing.
So the Real Estate Commission, well, we're currently in production. We already have 3 episodes filmed. It's an 8-episode season.
Okay.
And we're hoping in your area to get a local either business owner or property owner. So this isn't like anything else you've seen on TV. People say that ours really isn't. Unlike a reality show, it's a docu-series. So we're documenting actual deals as they kind of from beginning to end, as they fall apart, come back together again.
Oh, interesting.
So it's basically anything related to commercial real estate. So it could be a local business owner that needs to relocate their office space, or maybe they're getting larger, they're getting smaller. It could be a business that uses warehouse and they need to find a warehouse or get rid of their warehouse. It could be a property owner who just has a piece of property they can't lease and they can't sell, and they need an expert's help.
Oh, interesting. What was it about our area that attracted you to this?
So I'm based in Albany, New York. I'm in the state capital. But what I'm hoping to showcase is markets like yours that are kind of across the state, across the Northeast. Because unfortunately, because of production companies, just where networks are headquartered, there's like 100 shows, give or take, between all the networks and platforms about real estate. There's, Storage Wars, there's shows about flipping houses, residential real estate. But you'd think that basically real estate only gets sold in Miami, New York, or LA.
True.
Where, there's 210 television markets. Well, that means there's 210 markets.
Right.
And, the Ithacas, the Elmiras, the Watertowns, the Uticas, the Syracuse, the Buffaloes, the Albanys. That's where 99% of deals happen in commercial real estate across the country. They happen in, what I guess the market would say non-primary markets, not Chicago, New York.
Right.
So it's just a very good representative market that I would like to showcase.
How did the first 3 tapings go?
The episodes went well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, they did what normal deals do. So we had some issues. We got through them. And whatever, but I've been doing this is my 24th year.
Oh, wow.
Doing commercial real estate. I've done over 1,600 deals. I've done about $2 billion in transactions.
Oh, wow.
So I've kind of seen it all. So I see problems coming, and a lot of times I can fend them off or prevent them before they happen. But one of the first episodes is with a law firm that was renting for years and wants to own, and we're kind of deciding between downtown Albany, the suburbs, and what they think they want, and they'll kind of take through that process. Yeah. What
do you think? Kind of get on a side tangent here, but since you are dealing with businesses so frequently, what do you think about the economic shape of New York right now? Are a lot of businesses coming here?
So businesses are coming. The number one reason, so businesses come, but a lot of businesses come here once they've gone everywhere else first.
Right.
People like New York, they know we have incomes, they know we have, there's a market here. But between, I'll give you an example. Like, if you could develop in North Carolina or parts of Florida where you can get a project approved in 60 days, 90 days.
Right.
Sometimes it takes, in upstate New York and different communities, I'm not even talking about New York City, it could take you 3 months, 4 months just to get a building permit. If you want to get a site plan approval, it could take you 2 years. I have a project that I'm developing up in the North Country by the Canadian border, and I'm over 4 years in the process.
Wow.
So New York State has a serious problem with regulations and just beating things to death and beating people up, and our taxes are through the roof compared to everywhere else. So when retailers particularly are deciding where they're going to expand,
Right.
if you can go to North Carolina and your extra costs on top of your rent are $2 a foot, in New York are $8 a foot, you know, that just literally affects your bottom line of the same dollars in the same unit. Where do you make the most money?
Yeah.
So yes, people want to come to New York and people are expanding New York, but typically it's once they've expanded everywhere else. Now geographically, you have to infill because of district managers or distribution or whatever. But
Interesting.
unless they give specific incentives, like to, you know, we've had a lot of luck with tech and giving them incentives for tech to come in and make hubs.
Now, when we mentioned that people in our area can get involved with the Real Estate Commission, what do they need to know to start that process?
So they just need to actively be ready to do a commercial real estate deal. So like I said, it could be somebody who has a property they want to sell. It could be a shopping center. It could be an office building. It could be a warehouse. It could be, you know, a 20-unit apartment building. So it could be somebody who wants to sell something, get rid of it. It could be a user or a purchaser of investment properties or real estate, or like I said, could be an office user, could be a warehouse user, could be someone who's running a business, or it could be an entrepreneur that owns the business. They just need to be ready to go right now, because the process will happen quickly. They go to the realestatecommission.com. You click at the top, it says TV shows, and you can apply. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to apply. And,
interesting.
And then every person who applies, a producer will respond to you. And then it comes to me, I do see what the deals are and say, okay, can I help this person?
And how long is the process to create the show itself for these people if they're getting involved?
Oh, so we're doing like our final casting for the last 2 episodes. We're hoping one of them will be in your market, but basically from the time as soon as we do it and vet them out, they have to pass a background check from the A&E network, but that's basically just a criminal background check. It's
Sure.
pretty simple. So we do that, and then we literally just figure out what it is and we start working on it immediately.
Oh, interesting.
So we're on the air in October. So yeah, it would be a very quick process. If they got selected, we'd probably be working them within a week or 2.
Oh, interesting. So you said you can find out more at the realestatecommission.com?
TheRealEstateCommission.com, yeah. There's right at the very top, I think it says TV shows. You just click on that and you can fill out the application. Like I said, someone will respond to you if you fill out the application. You won't get ignored.
Now, what was it that got you into this specific show, but just in kind of the real estate world?
So I always thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I went to Siena College.
Okay.
And very long story, I got hired to be a resident assistant. And there was a guy on the board of trustees, actually, who created Avis Rent-A-Car.
Oh, okay.
So he had a friend who was a priest that died in St. Regis Falls, which shows up on a map. It has one flashing yellow light. They wanted the president of Siena College to go do the funeral, and no one knew where it was. So they asked me, could I drive the president there so he could get there back in the same day? Because this was before MapQuest and GPS or whatever. So anyway, I was in the car with the president for a day, and then he said, hey, there's this real estate developer on the board that's looking for a driver on the weekends. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yep. So I started driving for him for 3 years. Then my senior year, he gave me an internship and got into it. And then I went to work for a broker that primarily did retail.
Oh, wow.
So I decided, do I want to spend $250,000 in 3 years in law school, or do I want to go take a 100% commission job?
Right.
And it was rough. The first year, I think I made $30,000, and I literally made it in the last 3 weeks of the year, working 80 hours a week. So I say to people, it's a terrible, terrible business to get into, but once you get into it, it can be very lucrative and rewarding. You just have to be willing to get punched in the face,
over and over
in every deal. Yeah. Eventually, you just have your skin's so tough you don't even feel it anymore. But.
Sure. Well, and I think this is really neat. We were talking off the air, and you're kind of paying it forward, to use that cliche term. But you're saying, there's a lot of people that don't know a lot about business, especially when you're younger. So you're offering a business camp. Could you tell us about that?
Oh, so my real estate company is called Titan Commercial Realty Group. I had to think about that anyway. So we're calling this camp the Titans of Tomorrow. And if you think about camps for basketball, lacrosse, science camp, I've never seen, if it exists, a camp for young entrepreneurs. So for any students in the state, it's going to be Thursday, June 26th and Friday, June 27th. It'll be at Siena College, which is just 2 miles from the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a free 2-day camp. The kids have to pay to get here, and wherever they're going to stay overnight, that's on them. But the camp itself, I'm supporting all the costs for.
Oh, wow.
What the premise of the camp is it's 2 days. The morning of the first day, they'll get crash courses from me and other entrepreneurs that will basically teach them about the difference between profit and revenue. It'll teach about partnership agreements. It'll teach about branding. It'll teach about everything you kind of need to know if you're going to run a business. And then in the afternoon, then we'll feed them free lunch. And then in the afternoon, they'll pick teams and they'll get assigned other entrepreneur coaches, people that are successful from the business world that I'm friends with. And they'll pick teams, and we give them each $200. And that afternoon, they have to come up with a product or service that they could sell for $200. So it could be a car wash. It could be, do they want to sell organic lemons and do a lemonade stand? But we're also going to teach them about traffic counts and demographics and why you don't want to have a lemonade stand at the end of a cul-de-sac that has 2 cars a day.
Right.
Why you want to be out in front of a gas station that's got 40,000 cars a day. So we've partnered with local businesses that are close to the campus that will allow the kids to basically sell their product or service from their property. So the entire second day for 6 hours, the kids are actually in real life going to sell that product or service.
What a great idea.
And when they come back to the campus, the team that's created the most profit will win a $1,000 scholarship.
That's great. So it's really real life experience then, from beginning to end.
It's real life. They're really going to go up and pitch people and try to sell their product or service. They have to develop the product or service. They got to make mini business plans, and they're going to have a successful entrepreneur coach that's an alumni of Siena that will actually be there with them the whole time.
That's a great
idea. We'll
idea.
teach them the crash courses and then in real life, like there's no participation trophies. Whoever wins, and if you don't, you don't. But it's kind of a beta test, and then if this goes well, then we'll probably do an overnight camp the following year that'll be more in depth over 5 days.
Oh, interesting.
When I was a kid, you know how most people's biggest fear is public speaking?
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, there was this program put on by local nuns, Sister Carolyn. She's long since died, but she was such a sweet lady. But it was called Summer Sampler, and it was a 3-day improv class.
Okay.
So I remember we do like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Every summer it was a different play.
Mm-hmm.
But they would say, here's the script, here's where it starts and here's where it ends. But say something, don't say something, react, don't react. You can't be wrong, it doesn't matter. So from the time I was 3 years old, I never associated speaking in front of people with forgetting lines or I don't remember this or it's for a class. So I grew up, so part of the program also will be a little bit of improv, and it's teaching kids how to work and act on their feet and how to react to that potential customer that you don't know what they're going to say or not say. So, and
that's so helpful.
And I think the kids will get a lot out of.
Yeah, I mean, that's so helpful because when you get out to the real world, you realize how much you do end up using public speaking, essentially.
Well, not only that, I mean, how many kids do you talk to today that their entire life is this?
Exactly.
They're literally just staring at the phone and they don't even know how to talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. So. Hopefully none of them are traumatized by the experience of having to interact with actual people. But
what age group is this for?
It's open to incoming freshmen as well as just graduated seniors. So if there are any students, and as long as they're a student in private or public school in New York State, it's open to them. It's totally free.
Where can they find out more on that? Same site?
Yep, that's actually, go to therealestateCommission.com. And also, I will send you information if you wouldn't mind publishing it specifically about the camp.
No, would love to. Well, and because that's coming right up. Actually, you got to start planning if you want to attend. And of course, contact you if people want to get involved in the Real Estate Commission. What an amazing opportunity for our area. We thank you for doing it, and we wish you best of luck on your show.
Awesome.
And the best of luck on camp, too.
We'll keep you posted. Thank you so much.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription. Grab your Fox Sports app today.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's get to a few viewer comments here. Ken writes in and says, isn't it interesting that one conservative Supreme Court judge that sides with the liberals on voting to keep the illegal criminal immigrants in the country was Amy Coney Barrett? She seems to be siding with the liberals more and more, and I know there was concern of this. There was a piece out not too long ago expressing the frustrations of conservatives watching the career thus far of Amy Coney Barrett, but I'll continue. Could it be that the left has scared her enough with threats on justices, doxing justices, and protesting outside the justices' homes that she's afraid to show her conservative values? That could very well be the case. There's concerns of that with Brett Kavanaugh after he was sworn in, because Brett Kavanaugh had his life essentially upended by the media and those on the left. So there was concerns that he would try to play friendly, and there are concerns about that with Amy Coney Barrett. She did side in that breaking story yesterday. She did side with the group calling for the end of the Venezuelan gang members' deportation. So that was an interesting, well, maybe a signal or at least a red flag for many to continue to follow her decision-making process. So thank you, Ken. Thanks for writing that. Another comment from a different viewer. Good morning. Well, good morning. Has Hochul backed off on her fining of gas companies? I ask this because when you asked Todd if businesses are moving into New York State, he didn't seem very confident about it. Yes, that is one of the major issues we talked about on this program, which is when you find these fossil fuel companies. So these fossil fuel companies, and if you're not familiar with the climate change super fund that Hochul signed into law, what it does is essentially punish these businesses who followed the rules for 10 plus years, who did everything, went through all the red tape, all the New York, Albany bureaucracy, did everything the DEC demanded, et cetera, et cetera. We can go on and on, followed all the rules, and yet kind of retroactively being punished because fossil fuels are not in fashion right now, according to Governor Hochul. So what message does that send to a business thinking about coming to New York State, saying, if our business becomes unfashionable in kind of the media world, could we be fined? Is it worth going to New York State? Now, other states have sued us, and et cetera, because the total was about a $75 billion bill in this punishment. So would businesses consider coming to New York State knowing that that is always a potential? I think that's one of the huge consequences from that decision, because I believe the answer is no. So to this viewer's point, no, she has not backed off on fining those gas companies at all. Okay, we were talking about tariffs, obviously, as is the case everywhere. Glenn Reynolds writes that Trump's, and he is a professor of law at the University of Tennessee, he says that Trump's economic shakeup is a shock to the system that could actually pay off very big. So this morning we've had both positions, or all positions on the program, and what is being said about the tariffs. But as President Trump rolls out his economic program, there's one question that is not being asked. What if it works? Trump's supporters are rooting for its success. His opponents, out of a mixture of envy and self-interest, hope it craters. But what would actually happen if Trump achieves his aims? The White House hasn't released a single document spelling out its economic plan, but based on the moves made so far and comments from Trump's top economic aides, the outlines of his goals are becoming clear. First, he's looking to increase wages for working class Americans. The core basis, though not as we'll see, the only one, for his tariff packages. Trump wants to encourage businesses to move manufacturing to the U.S. That's clear. He's made that clear. And not just his statements, but also what some of his aides and some of his cabinet members have been saying in public. And we have, in fact, seen quite a few announcements of major new investments since his tariff plans were unveiled. More than 70 countries have already approached the White House to talk about the tariff reduction deals. Rolling back illegal immigration will also help boost working class wages. People claim illegal aliens, quote, do the jobs Americans won't do, end quote. But it's more accurate to say they do the jobs Americans won't do at absurdly low wages. Progressives once appreciated this basic fact, and we can go through the history of that with comments from even people like Joe Biden. But we know their opinions on that have changed. The Congressional Budget Office projected last year that the Biden immigration surge would put downward pressure on wages for at least a decade into the future. Trump's immigration crackdown is meant to reverse that. Trump also aims to make it easier to start, operate, and expand businesses and easier to hire workers, legal ones, by easing up on federal regulations. That will boost employment and wages as well as increase tax revenue. Second, Trump is looking to reduce federal spending, deficits, and the national debt. In fact, his tariff proposals are already doing just that. By driving down interest rates on Treasury bonds, the lower that interest rate, the smaller our debt payments, and the less in the way of tax increases or program cuts will be needed to bring the budget under control. And that's an important talking point. I've heard others mention that, but what happens when the interest rate is lowered? Now, this is essential. The nation has been rushing headlong toward financial collapse for quite some time. Lower rates on Treasury bonds will also help tamp down inflation, which was spurred by the government's reckless spending, all the spending by the Biden administration, and especially during COVID. That's a huge boost to the finances of working families. So in the ongoing decline in mortgage rates, which accompanies the drop in Treasury interest rates. Third, the president is choking off funding for the nation's political, academic, media elites, even as he reduces their power and influence, as we've talked about with the Doge operation so extensively on this program and elsewhere. Finally, Trump wants increased democratic accountability. The decline of the invisible government, this kind of bureaucracy, this red tape that we've talked so frequently about, of unelected NGOs and the like, will return power to elected officials, accountable to the voters, instead of a nameless, faceless bureaucrat that you don't know making the decisions behind the scenes. This puts accountability back on the elected officials, people you actually get to vote for. Now, this weekend, and we talked about it on yesterday's program, of the hands-off protests were revealing. By telling the elected president to keep his hands off the government, they were really telling ordinary Americans to keep their hands off this bloated, unresponsive bureaucracy. The budget will move toward balance. The parasite class of bureaucrats, academics, lobbyists, and so on will have much less influence, and the nation will stop pouring money into the pockets of unproductive hanger-ons, which is why Trump's critics aren't afraid he will fail. They're afraid that he will succeed. That's Glenn Reynolds looking at a different take on the tariffs and the economic policies of the Trump administration. We've got to take a short break. See some comments, see some waves coming in. Thanks for that. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Please stay with us.
Baseball isn't about the money or winning or losing. It's about the Mets. The Mets. Love the Mets. It's all about the Mets on WJKP, your local New York Mets station. Make sure you don't miss a home run and tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Brought to you by your local Nissan dealers.
Let's go, Mets!
Invite you to discover what makes our school community so special, including the fact that everything, top-notch education, housing, healthcare, food, clothing, technology, and much more is provided to our students at no cost to our families. This is thanks to the generosity of our founders, chocolate maker Milton S. Hershey and his wife, Catherine.
Anyone, anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Different topic. Who's paying for protests last Saturday? And why don't they need permits? It killed business on Market Street. Yeah, we talked quite a bit about it on yesterday's program because I had received on Saturday a lot of calls and photos from viewers and friends who were here not to be a part of the protest, but just happened to be on Market Street. I don't think, and feel free to reach out, I do not believe it was a boom to business. I would agree with this viewer. I'm not sure the protests are paid. I do think it's interesting how many professional signs you see very often, or like going back to the protests, anti-Semitic protests at Columbia and places like that where they had the encampments and where were the tents coming from. So I know there's always these type of questions. I don't know what the final number was either on the amount of protesters or even a ballpark, but it did sound like it was quite a turnout. Wrapping up our discussion on tariffs and getting ready to take our last break, Senator Elizabeth Warren said on MSNBC, of course, she was asked by Jen Psaki, "Tell me if I'm correct here that Congress already has the authority to stop him," meaning Trump. "So what does that mean and what could happen in order to stop this?" Elizabeth Warren said, quote, "We'll do a little constitutional law. It's Congress that actually has to approve tariffs. We gave this emergency power to Donald Trump, but Congress has the power under just a resolution, simple majority, to say it's not an emergency. And that takes away his power to put all these tariffs into place. Last Wednesday, we advanced in the U.S. Senate this motion to say, hey, we're not in an emergency situation with Canada. And 4 Republicans right then crossed over, voted with the Democrats, and it passed. And the importance of this is just to be wonky for a minute. It's a privileged motion, which means it has to be brought to the floor to be voted on. So right now we've got every Democrat lined up saying we are ready to declare we are not in an emergency. We are not at a war with France, with Canada, with Italy. Can we just go through the whole list with Japan, with South Korea? We are not. And if a handful of Republicans will join us, we have the power to put a stop to this tariff catastrophe that Donald Trump is putting into place and pulling our economy into a ditch. Okay, that was our last update on tariffs. Okay, Doge. We've got so many things to cover and so short of time to get there. Doge has cut $51 million from the U.S. African Development Foundation, which includes $229,000 to market shea butter. I know this all sounds weird. The more we learn that Doge is cutting, the more weird places our hard-earned tax-paying dollars go. The $51 million in cuts from the U.S. African Development Foundation included hundreds of thousands of dollars for marketing shea butter and pineapple juice, as well as mango drying facilities. This was highlighted on X. For instance, $229,000 was used to market 100% organic shea butter. $246,000 was spent on mango drying facilities in the Ivory Coast, and $239,000 was spent on marketing pineapple juice. The department also said $100,000 was spent to increase yogurt production in Uganda. $84,000 was spent on a business incubator for spa and wellness entrepreneurs in Nigeria. $50,000 was spent to train farmers how to grow dragon fruit. and $48,000 was spent on a WhatsApp marketing chatbot in Kenya. Now, we recommend or encourage you that if you want to find more about these cuts made by Doge, as the time is running up for Elon Musk to head Doge, the 130 days by law that he's allowed to be a special government employee wraps up at the end of May. And so we'll see how much is getting done at the end of these last really kind of few weeks. But those are some more examples, and we encourage you to go to doge.gov to find out more. There's a few other issues we'll get to when we come back. Read your last-minute comments, so get them in. This edition, the Tuesday edition of Frankly Speaking, is almost through, so get your comments in. We'll read them in the next segment and wrap things up. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Are you having trouble hearing your TV or listening to conversations in loud spaces? Then it might be time to consider Nano hearing aids. Don't mistake Nanos for cheap amplifiers. Nanos are FDA-registered OTC hearing aids, which means no more having to go to a doctor and spend thousands. Nano hearing aids are now offering $100 off through this special TV offer. Order right now and get 2 CIC rechargeable hearing aids for only $297. And if you're not happy, return them for a full refund.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about we. Thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDC. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We're broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. We've got a couple comments on our way out the door. First up, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. As I was just bringing in my daily firewood, I got thinking firewood is the best source of solar energy we have. A tree grows directly from sunlight. It is readily available in our area. It is the most reliable and sustainable source of energy we have. Hochul is so wrong. Comment from Mark. He writes, the Dems had 4 years to fix America and didn't. They're jealous of Trump deep down. Thank you very much. And finally, no real response to this, but one viewer says, yo, Frank, good morning. Well, yo, good morning to you as well. A story that we did not have an opportunity to bring up on yesterday's program because we ran out of time. I wanted to mention it just quickly as we head out the door. Unionized workers at the Defense Health Agency, tasked with overseeing benefits for United States troops, spent 87,000 hours and $3.3 million during fiscal 2023 and 2024 doing union work instead of their actual jobs. 87,000 hours. That's equivalent to 3,625 days, almost a full man-hour decade. Burned up by staffers tending to their own interests, to the detriment of the troops they're supposed to be charged with helping and the taxpayers they're answerable to. They spent those hours doing things like contract renegotiations and fringe benefit squeeze-outs. This report came from Senator Joni Ernst out of Iowa, a veteran herself and a fierce advocate for the troops, as well as a staunch fighter against fraud and waste as the head of the Senate Doge caucus. Now, it's great that this is being exposed, being brought to light, but it points to a bigger problem, which is the public sector unions are bad news for everyone. In the private sector, unionized workers use their collective power to win concessions from business owners. Government doesn't work that way. The dissatisfied can't escape so easily, and it's politicians and other officials with no personal skin in the game who make the concessions. And unionized government workers put the squeeze directly on you. Every benefit, every pay hike, every extra comes out of the taxpayer's pocket. So That is a report from Joni Ernst that we wanted to highlight for you. Also, the IRS and DHS have reached a historic deal to aid in the pursuit of illegal immigrants subject to deportation. Yes, the Department of Homeland Security and Internal Revenue Service have come to an agreement to permit ICE to access taxpayer information to locate illegal immigrants subject to deportation. That was breaking early this morning, late last night. One last comment from a viewer. I will say I was very disappointed with Rand Paul and not surprised by the others. I don't have a lot of confidence that Congress will do what is necessary or anything that will give President Trump a win. Well, thank you for that comment. All right, we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Have a great day, everyone, and we will be back tomorrow morning and every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. I look forward to it already.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.